Hello Scholar parents! I wanted to make this quick orientation video to share with you so that we could avoid an extra meeting, that I could still share with you some ideas and some information about what your scholars are doing at our Scholar School at the Family Leadership Academy. First of all, on the first day of class, they all received, you've probably seen, their new Scholar binders, and they're free to replace this, make it their own, this front cover. On the first day of class, we went over the different, there's 8 different sections, and I'll quickly tell you about each one. It would be helpful for you to know about them so that you can help them and encourage them. Of course, we want them to do this mostly on their own and to choose how much of each invitation they want to tackle and how they want to do it. We are focusing very much on the Thomas Jefferson education, leadership education, agency-based approach to education. So everything I talk about, present in this orientation, keep in mind that, and I'm always reminding the scholars in our mentor class as well, that these are invitations for them to expand their capacity, challenge themselves, but they're all on different levels and they're encouraged to challenge themselves, but to participate as much as they are interested and feel comfortable. And so the first thing is the syllabus. Let me tell you a little bit about the syllabus. This is the syllabus for the entire year, starting in fall and going through winter semester. Each semester will have an overarching question that we address and that we talk about throughout the semester, and that will coincide with a leadership-based or values-based, principle-based type book that we will discuss. For this first semester, we're doing Gordon B. Hinckley's Stand for Something, and in winter semester, we'll be actually having 2. We'll be reading Thomas Jefferson Education for Teens and How to Win Friends and Influence People. So those books aren't all to be discussed and read in one large discussion. Rather, they're divided up into chapters or sections, and we will use those to highlight certain principles and ideas as leaders. And so those books will be discussed a little bit in each mentor session throughout the year. And then you can see there's 2 different scholar lists of books for fall and winter, Scholar A and Scholar B. You can choose with your scholar, they can discuss with me which set of books they feel are most appropriate for them. Scholar B being more challenging, the books are longer and more difficult literature. Scholar A would be for a practice scholar starting out, and most of our students this year are in the Scholar A category. So we'll be discussing those mostly, but if they feel they're too easy, then we can move them on to the Scholar B list. And then you can see, I don't know if you can see this in the video, but at least you can keep hearing my voice. Then each class is divided by date, and each month has a focus of mentoring. For example, October is self-leadership skills and writing. Then you can see during each class we'll either have a book colloquium where we discuss the book every other week, or on the off weeks, when we're not discussing one of the classics, then they'll have a paper due. And when I say due, that's one of those invitations where if they choose to fulfill that invitation, that would be when we were sharing them or turning them in to get some feedback. And along with those writing invitations, let me, since I'm talking about writing for just a second, let me skip to number 6, which is writing. And I want to explain where writing invitations come from. In that section, you see writing invitations for this school year, and then there's a long list of writing styles or different ways they can choose to write their papers. I'll be presenting about every other week one of these writing styles or samples. In our first class we did word studies, and I invited them to challenge themselves to do a word study if they wanted to. They could do that for Stand for Something or for Hatchet that we're reading, or they could choose to just do their own style. They could do a summary or a personal narrative or whatever they want to write about for every book. It's their choice. But throughout the year, we'll be doing these writing invitations to give them more options, to expand their capacity for writing, more invitations, different styles, so that they can choose. So as they get towards the end of the year, they will be knowledgeable about all of these different styles, and with each paper, with each book, they will have the option of still just doing a short summary, writing up their thoughts, or they can choose from any of these writing styles to challenge themselves to increase their writing portfolio by experimenting upon one of these writing invitations. And these come from the family school curriculum. In the online library, they have advanced writing assignments for the family school, and that's where all of these writing styles come from. So the checklist is the second one. Let me turn to that tab. The checklist is important because at the end of the year we'll be having a super trip or a super activity. We've yet to decide. We'll decide that as a class, whether it's a super trip or a super activity. And those who challenge themselves to complete the invitations would be invited on that activity, which will be this summer sometime after the winter semester has ended. So the first page of the Scholar School checklist is the books. They can date or check when they've read it, if they've written a paper on it. And this allows them to read and go at their own pace, or decide which ones, or they can cross one off and and fill it in with a different book if they want to choose a different book. And then if they have written a paper, and here again they can choose how to define that with themselves, with their parents, or with me as their mentor, how challenging they want that writing to be. The second page of the Scholar checklist, this outlines, and I won't go over all of these. You can read these different things that we'll be doing throughout the year, but they'll receive a variety of invitations each month, and deadlines to share those different opportunities if they choose to accept them. And they again can choose their topics and how challenging or simple they want the different projects to be. Maybe one scholar would want them all to be extremely challenging. Another might want them to be all more on the simple to achieve side, especially if they're in a lot of other activities and classes, or some might choose a combination depending on their interests and time commitment that they're able to make. So you can read through all of these different things. It's the recitation, the speech project, scholar project, practicing self-leadership, the commitments that we'll make. We'll be going on a mountain leadership hike on May 3rd. The portfolios I'll talk about in just a minute, completing their portfolio, and here gives some deadlines and descriptions. And then at the end of the year, we'll have our evening of sharing and recognition. So this checklist gives them, and also here at the top, the first one is orientation. That's this video, or attending their first class. So that'll be an easy one to check off right there. And then the very first one is complete all readings and papers, and the Scholar Vision Retreat, which we'll be having the beginning of every year. So they can read over this page. I'd encourage you as their mentors at home to read over this page. This gives a really good overview of all of the projects and invitations, the deadlines and recommendations for how to complete those different opportunities. And let's go back to our table of contents here. Let me tell you about hours, number 3, the Scholar hours. And we'll be talking about this a lot in class, and bringing up ideas from the Talent Code and the book Outliers, and talking about why it's important, now that they're practice scholars or other phases of scholars, why it's important to pay more attention to how much time they are studying each day, now that they've progressed beyond the love of learning stage. And this is a tool that we're providing for them. They can, of course, choose to use it or not, or if you have a better system or something else, you can encourage them to use the main idea with a lot of these tools I'm going to be sharing with you next is to provide accountability. We talk a lot in our mentor class about self-leadership, being self-directed, and making commitments. And along with with that topic, it's important to be able to track your progress, to be held accountable to yourself and to others. So this scholar study record will help them, if they choose to use this tool, to record each day how many hours they're devoting to their study. And here again, they can choose what they include in their study. It's a tool for their use, and we'll be discussing it in class and in our mentor meetings in class. The core book, the fourth tab, is their spiritual study. And here again, it's a tool that they can choose to use or not. It's not a requirement, but a tool if it is helpful to them in expanding their capacity as scholars and being more aware of their commitment to themselves and others, and in this case, their commitment to God. We have a place for a date and then just a blank, because we want the scholars to choose how they're recording their efforts or their time spent in the scriptures or their spiritual studies. They can choose to record the chapters they read, the verses, the time amount they read, or experiences they had or thoughts they had, or whatever they want to record. But we're encouraging them to use this tool or another tool to track their progress so they can see over a course of time how that study is going, because it's really difficult to just keep that all in our minds, especially as we're becoming more scholarly. Commitments is the fifth tab. And here we have another log, another tool for them to use as scholars. And this is a weekly commitment record. We write the date and the commitment, and then the following week we record the results and the date. And this we'll use extensively in our class, because we begin and end every Scholar School mentor session with what we call our commitment circle. So we go around, and myself included, everyone in the room shares a commitment that they intend to keep that week or 2 weeks if we have a missed class or holiday. And then we write it down to make sure that we remember what we've committed to. And we're talking a lot in our mentor sessions about what it means to commit, what self-directed leadership is, accountability. It's a really important skill as a scholar, and so we want to help each other, hold each other accountable to those commitments that we're making. And then the first circle is to report back on how the previous week's commitment went. And the final circle before we end the mentor session is to record a new commitment for the upcoming week. So that's what the commitment log is. You might, at home, to encourage your scholars, ask them on a regular basis, what's your commitment for this week? And we want the scholars to be in charge of that, but it doesn't hurt to have conversation about it and to have a question here or there, or a reminder. And then the sixth one is writing, which we talked about. Seventh tab here is for projects. Right now it's empty. So as we do the projects from the checklist throughout the year, they will be going there. And the eighth one is also currently empty. It's the portfolio. Let me share with you just briefly what the portfolio will be and what it will look like. The scholars will all be provided a folder that looks like this or similar to this, with different dividers for them to put their portfolio collection in, or they can find their own resource if they like something else, of course. In about a month, we'll be starting to work on our portfolios. And what this is it's record keeping for the scholar level, another tool that they can choose to use or create their own ideas. This will help them in the future to apply for college. We're being forward thinking and trying to help them create their vision for the future. And if college isn't their goal, it might be an apprenticeship or an entrepreneurial business or a study abroad, or whatever it is that they want to accomplish in their lives. These portfolios will help them to achieve those tasks, even if it's applying for a job. One of the sections, I'll just tell you briefly, and they'll tell you more as we go throughout the year. This first section is an education plan where they can write out their goals and commitments for the year of what they intend to study and how they intend to study it. It can be as complex or simple as they'd like it to be, and we'll give some suggestions in class for those ideas. And then this is a section for their resume, We'll start helping them to track items they can keep on their resume. This can be a great motivator as well, as they see the different aspects of their education, their talents, their service, their work experience. They start to see the holes, where they're really talented, where there might be some holes, and it's an inspiring document or process to encourage them to be well-rounded and prepare for their future, however that vision looks to them. This particular example has a separate musical training resume or section of the portfolio. It might be, if their interest is heavily based in computer programming or sports or a specific area, they might have a separate section that is just documenting that portion of their life. Here's a musical repertoire list, a literature list, and we'll start keeping this right away as we're reading approximately a classical book every 2 weeks, and we'll encourage them to add previous books that they've already read to keep a really accurate list of literature that they have read. That will be quite an exciting list by the time they are through with their scholar years. And this is a memorization repertoire. Short memorization, long memorization, maybe scriptures they have memorized, whatever they'd like to add to that section, or other historical documents. We'll also add to this, or suggest if they want to add to it, a service record, or this would be a good place to keep a transcript if they are keeping a formal transcript for college admissions. So that's the portfolio that we will be discussing in class and providing resources for. And also on the first day of our Scholar School, each of the scholars received a book similar to this. Some are black, brown, different sizes. They each chose their favorite type of notebook. And these are our commonplace notebooks. They're just empty notebooks they were given, and we'd be discussing in class how to use those. It's basically just a single place for keeping all of their thoughts as they discuss. It's not just for the books we're reading in class or just for spiritual study, or it's really a collection, a common place, a single notebook for keeping all of the thoughts and ideas that come to them that they want to remember. Insights, quotes, references, whatever it is, in whatever subject. Their complete scholar study experience. It's a one place to locate all of those ideas and to keep a record. And hopefully they'll fill up, and maybe each year they'll have a new one that they can reference and see a record of their study and the growth of thought over the years. You might encourage them or do yourselves to do a Google search online of commonplace notebooks. You'll find a lot of great historical figures who have kept commonplace notebooks where they have gathered all of their thoughts of learning. And it's a great exercise to do, to Google that, to see how they were used, by whom they were used, the great things that came from them, and to share ideas on how to use the commonplace notebook with your scholar. And we'll keep sharing those ideas in our class as well. I'm really excited to share this year with them, and I hope you'll feel free to email me with any questions you have. And our first day of class was a raging success. Everyone was really excited. Oh, and I need to tell you about one of the most fun parts of our class. And there's lots of fun activities that are coming throughout the year that are listed in their Scholar School binder in the checklist section. But we break up, it's a 2-hour class, and so we break it up right in the middle with our team building leadership activity. And that was a real highlight for the scholars, the fun that we had in building our scholar team. So you'll have to ask them about the different activities we do for our leadership team building as well. Thanks for watching our little Scholar School orientation.